Good afternoon. So today's live feed, as I be productive and walk at the same time, is about actually what happened earlier and inspired by a chat I had with one of the ladies earlier. So I'll start off with what one of the ladies said to me literally about 10 minutes ago, which was about biscuits in the office being on the side, and also people coming in and saying, you know, with a chocolate or an ice cream, saying, oh no, I've got to buy you an ice cream, here's one, and just off the cuff just saying yes and having it and going, flipping out, why did I do that? I have no motivation, it's there. And it reminded me of what happened at lunchtime. So at lunchtime we went out to Italian restaurant and we sat down. So I'm next to my daughter who's 2 years old. She sat down all good, but obviously there's a bit of a wait on the food, probably my fault for ordering sea bass. And we're waiting, she's all good, but then she starts going, oh, I want to go, walk around a bit, so let's go walk around, let's see them cooking a bit. Then she starts running, gets away from me there, running around. Then I noticed there was colouring stuff and toys, and we didn't bring any toys either. Then I noticed there was colouring crayons. We then got the colours, crayons down, and then she sat down and good. Now my point is that your environment dictates what you do. If we didn't have the colour in the crayons, I'd have probably been running around with her. She'd was like chasing her. She'd have probably been a bit like, getting a bit bored of just sitting down at a table waiting, right? Whereas the crayons, the colouring pencils, they meant that she sat down and ate. Now, why am I sharing this? Well, we're kind of no different when it comes to our kitchen, when it comes to our office. If your environment is full of biscuits, chocolates, and you know that when they're there you're just going to pick one, then you've got a simple thing to do is either one, not have them in the house, or two, make sure that you speak to the person who keeps bringing them in and just say, can you lock them in a different room when you're having them, or if you're having them, put them in your bowl and then bring them in, whatever it is. I mean, one of the ladies at the moment, what she does, her other half actually locks them in the garage when her kids go to bed, because they have them because of the kids, and then if she wants them, she's got to ask for the key for him. Whatever works. But the same when it comes to like baking, cooking. We often say, oh yeah, I need to make a cake for someone. We use it almost as an excuse, if you like, to eat the cake and eat more cake. And I'm not saying that don't eat cake, but if you're struggling in it, then that's what's putting you down more. So your meals are healthy, you're eating well, you've got routine there, but it's the snacks in between, the picking, that adds up, and you feel out of control. Then you've got to start with your environment. At least maybe one more day a week, just don't have it in the house, and just see how that works. Because and like I said, you don't have to do that forever. This is just something that you can start to make yourself feel better, because ultimately it does come back down to a little bit about willpower, motivation. But if you're setting yourself up to have to rely on willpower all day, every day, so there's just snacks left out on the side, people like at least control the things you can, so that you have to rely less on willpower. Because ultimately what we often think about when we try and make changes with exercise, should I exercise today, or should I eat healthy today, we often look at the cost of doing it. So if you're going to exercise, you've got to get your shoes, trainers on, you've got to get your clothes ready, you're going to have to leave the house maybe, or put on something or whatever, and that takes effort. But we often forget the cost of not doing it. Or the cost of not doing it, you might put your slippers on and eat 400 calories, 500 calories of snacking, feel rubbish, beat yourself up, not feel kind of have much energy, and then just beating yourself up the next day for not doing it, blaming willpower, and the cycle continues and continues. So sometimes you've got to remember the cost of not doing something, how you feel, because there's nothing more important than how you feel, and put your kind of attention on that constantly, because ultimately how you feel will affect what you do, and what you do affects your results. But it's kind of chicken and the egg a bit. So start with your environment to make it easier to do the doing, so that then you build momentum, small habits, compound effect, because really the success, your results will come from those small habits and building momentum, rather than focusing on the overwhelming long-term goal. And that's sometimes why it's so hard to stick to, actually. because you're thinking about your ideal results are sometimes so far in the future that it's hard to do the now. What I mean by that is, say you think, I'm going to have to, for me to feel confident and in the clothes I want to wear, in the dress, whatever you say, you're going to have to lose a certain amount of weight, which might take you a year. So right now, right in this moment, there's no instant gratification on that, and that can be quite annoying actually, and that can be quite demotivating. You might then go and put it off, rather than, that's why something we do in our program is focus on 4-week blocks, because when you focus on 4-week blocks, it gives you a bit of structure, and that's where the accountability comes in. That's what essentially I do, to give you accountability, to give you some routine, give you some structure, because that's how we work best. Like, that is literally the difference between someone making progress and not, most of the time. I mean, some people can do it on their own, that's fine, but I can't do it on my own. I have a coach. They help my programming, my nutrition, doing stuff like this, like overcoming fear of just talking at a camera whilst walking and crossing roads, which is probably pretty dangerous. But coming back to what it is, so your environment dictates what you do more than you think. We think we're in control, we think we're in control of our decisions, but the size of your plate, the food on the side, the food in your fridge, what you see first, you're more likely to eat when you open your cupboard. You're 3 times more likely to eat the first thing you see than the 5th. All these things dictate. So create an environment that makes it easier and more convenient to make healthy choices. Have some lower calorie ready meals ready in your freezer, perhaps, to make it so that, always ask what's the alternative, because if you're super busy, you're tired, and the alternative is always like, just get the takeaway or whatever, then you might not be for like ready meals, but if some of them are pretty good now anyway. But if there's some healthy ready meal or something like you can just grab and go and save time, then that's a good alternative. So just think about your environment. Think about one thing you can do to make your environment better today. It could be that you're gonna boil some eggs, keep it in the fridge, cook a roast chicken, keep some leftovers for the next day, so that you've got something picking there. It could be that you don't buy the biscuits tomorrow, so they're not in the house. It could be that, weirdly, you reverse that and give yourself permission to actually have the biscuit, so you structure it in. Maybe at a time when you're less tired and actually more in control. So it could be at, say, 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. when maybe you're not actually fancy it. Structure it in then, and just maybe change your relationship with the food, because sometimes that's the problem as well. You restrict, so all you want then is it, and then when you have it, you're kind of a bit out of control. But then if you try and have it and structure it in when perhaps you're feeling in control and you don't really want it, kind of just changes the relationship with it. So you don't associate with the food with when you're tired, stressed, doing work in an office, or doing some boring, data input or something like that, or admin-y tasks. So that's about it. I think I have to summarise about 10 times there. Lots of tangents, but hopefully you took one thing away, is that your environment will dictate what you do to some extent. Accountability separates a lot of what we do, the results we get, and just make sure you align your environment with your goals. That's it for now. Any questions, do let me know, and speak soon.